Wonder Explains. This time we're looking at the argument of the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, basically how they saw sovereignty and what kind of relationship the people had with their governments. And by governments, we mean national and state government. So if you remember, we've got Alexander Hamilton, who believed that the people were people of the United States of America. And then we've got Thomas Jefferson, who believed that they were citizens of the United, small u, capital states of America. In other words, you're a citizen of South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, whatever, and that the states were members of the super federation called the national government. So let's talk a little bit more about these perspectives. In Hamiltonian federalism, basically the people had given up their sovereignty to the national government. In other words, their deal was directly with the government. And so, and basically, the states only existed because the country was so big, they kind of needed smaller little administrative districts in order to implement the laws that the national government made. And so voting, for example. Each state did voting, but it was going to be a national law that kind of determined how those votes were collected. It just didn't make sense to have one election in 1790, according to Alexander Hamilton, because the country was too big. It would just be too hard to do that. And so the states kind of got what they got from the national government, and that was what it was. If the people wanted to give more power to the government, if they wanted to make laws or give up some freedoms in order to have something else protected, according to Alexander Hamilton, all that needed to happen was that the people would vote. And basically, if the government ended up making a law, in other words, if 51% of the people in the House of Representatives and 51% of the representatives in the Senate made a law, and if the president didn't veto the law, then it would become a law for the national government. And so it's kind of almost like a majority rules kind of a situation. And that's basically what it would be. And so more power would be moved to the national government. That's what Hamilton thought. Thomas Jefferson said it doesn't work like that. The people never gave up their rights to the national government. They actually gave up their rights to the state governments. And so the people of South Carolina gave up their rights to the state of South Carolina. And the people of North Carolina gave up their rights to the state of North Carolina. And those states, through the Constitution, then agreed to give up certain powers that are specifically laid out in the Constitution to the national government. In other words, they said, listen, our people have already given us this, and it makes sense for us to give this power to the national government because the national government can do it better. And so this would be like in the preamble, we the people of the United States. Actually, before it went to the committee where they were actually writing the final draft, it was we the people of the separate states, and then it listed all 13 of them themselves. And people looked at that and said, man, that kind of doesn't flow, right? How are kids ever going to memorize that in school? And so to promote the general welfare, to provide for the common defense, these are all things that our people have already given us, but a national government can do those things better than we can, and so we're giving those up, but we're keeping all of these other rights, and really that means that the people in our states are keeping those rights. And so if the people in Pennsylvania want to give up more power, let's say they want to have a mask mandate in public spaces, for example, all they have to do is vote in their state, and they can give that power to their state government. But that doesn't obligate the people anywhere else in the country to do the same thing. And so what Thomas Jefferson kind of referred to this as is the laboratories of democracy. In other words, people can basically try to give up more power to the government. And if a state wants to give up more power to the government, There's a process for that through constitutional amendments. Now, constitutional amendments are hard. You have to get 75%, but there is a way to do it. To add amendments to the Constitution. So if Pennsylvania, the people of Pennsylvania, want to give that power to the Constitution, according to Jefferson, you just have a constitutional amendment vote. This time, even if the same number of people vote the same way. In this case, because it's 75%, not just 51%, it doesn't get added. But that doesn't force the people of Pennsylvania to do anything different. They can still have the mask mandate, but because it's not in the Constitution, it cannot be forced on all of the other states. So even if a majority wanted them, then basically Thomas Jefferson would say, listen, if your state voted for this to be a law, then we would encourage you to give that power to your state government, but you can't give that power to the national government without everybody agreeing. And that gives individuals more power, more sovereignty, and it does a better job of protecting their rights. That's kind of Jefferson's argument. Hamilton's is, listen, this is so hard to get anything done that it's almost impossible. And Thomas Jefferson would even agree with that, but basically was okay with it, whereas Hamilton felt like more had to be done by the government in order to run society better. That's it for this time. Hope you have a good day.